All right, all right. My buddy Paul Melia, hold on to the colors. That's a U in colors because he's Irish and they spell things funny over there, but that's how it goes. Welcome, everybody, once again to your Wednesday night webinar. I am Dr. Patrick McGrath, Chief Clinical Officer at NoCD. Reminder tonight is informational purposes, not for therapy. But if you are looking for therapy, hey, NoCD does it. You can check us out at nocd.com or go to www.nocd and whichever way you like to put it in. You get to do it in multiple ways. And you can check us out on the App Store or iOS store as well. You can download that NoCD app for free. You can hit that therapist button, and we would be happy to set up a therapist for you across the US, Canada, UK, and Australia as well. Hey, we do a few other things too. We do these cool NoCD 411 sessions. If you got a family member or friend who you think's got OCD, but maybe a not quite prime time ready for therapy player, well, then guess what? We would be happy to talk to you and give you some education about that as well. We'll do that. And we also treat things like hoarding and tics and BFRBs as well. So check us out again, nocd.com, or download that NoCD app. All right, let's get into a couple of things. I got a couple of questions that came in various formats to me. People find me and they ask questions. So one of them was, I'm in a debate with my therapist after an exposure. I like to say, based on past experience doing this exposure, the result will likely be the same. And the question was, is it okay to do something like this, right? And so here's why I believe that's a ritual. And the reason I think that is because, do you do that in other things that you haven't done exposures in? Every time that you drive, do you say, well, based on all the other times I've driven, I believe that everything will likely turn out the same? Every time that you lock a door, do you say, well, based on all the other times that I've locked the door, I believe that the result will be the same? Every time you pay for something, based on the last time I paid for something, I believe that the result will be the same. Or do you just do that while you're doing ERP to things that are maybe frightening and intrusive for you? And if that's the case, we have a loser, not a winner. We have a loser, because that loser is a compulsion, and we want to get rid of that compulsion. So we want to stop that. Now, the question was, isn't this reframing? And I want to talk about this notion a little bit of reframing. Don't do much of it in the ERP world, honestly, because it's more of a kind of a cognitive exercise and things. And I think there's a lot of times that people with OCD want to try to reframe their thoughts, their images, their urges into something else. And it probably gets a little bit difficult to do over time with people, because it's like, all right, well, and how do I know I got the right reframe or anything like that? And what if it's wrong or anything? And so what if we skip the reframe part and we just went and we did things? And that's ultimately what we want to do in the ERP world. We just want to go and we want to do it. And we want to learn that we can handle it. We may not like it. It may not be comfortable. That's okay. But you know what? We can handle it. That is our goal. That's what we want. That's the key piece. So to this writer inner, I'm going to encourage you to no longer say, based on past experience doing this exposure, the result will likely be the same. I know that it probably does relax you and helps prevent feelings of discomfort or panic, but that means that's a safety behavior. And that's why you have to practice doing the ERP without that kind of stuff, so that you can handle the ERP in and of itself without any safety behaviors attached to it. So Neely says, how do you do self-compassion without giving yourself reassurance? Well, I think that you just accept the fact that, hey, I'm a person. I'm hopefully a decent person. OCD may not allow you to believe that. So let's just throw that out there. That's why I'm not here saying, tell yourself you're a great person. Tell yourself how wonderful you are. You may not believe that, right? But here's the deal. Can you just accept the fact that I'm a human? I do things well sometimes. I make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes I do things pretty average, and that's okay, without having to tell yourself, oh no, you're fine. Don't worry about it. It's okay. People will still like you anyway, whatever. I'm going to bet, Zanelli, that if other people goof up or make a mistake, you're probably rather nice to them. I'm going to bet that if other people do things that you find uncomfortable, you're not as judgy to them as you are to yourself. Maybe self-compassion without reassurance is actually treating yourself the way you treat other people who do similar things. Because if you are using specialness, the rules of the world apply to me differently than they do to everybody else. It's okay if other people do this, but it's not okay if I do it. If that's the way that you're approaching the world, it's a really difficult world to live in if that's the case. So maybe self-compassion is just being as nice to yourself as you are to others, right? Or just, even if it's not nice, treating yourself the way that you treat others, right? See what it's like to do that without having to tell yourself everything's going to be fine and all will be okay. Crappie says, I try not to do compilations. I'm thinking your autocorrect made compulsions into compilations. So I'm going to change that too. I try not to do compulsions, but my anxiety is so bad I can't avoid it. My anxiety is so severe during ERP. Well, Crappie, let's work on some lower level ERP then to get you to do ERP where you aren't feeling like you have to do compulsions, or in your case, compilations, which is a great, by the way, spell check change of compulsion. I love that. And I might just change it. It's obsessive compilation disorder, maybe is what we will now call it from now on, because I think that's fabulous, by the way. I love it. But Crappie, maybe the ERP is just too high level. Why don't you step it down a notch, right? Some people want to go all gangbusters out on ERP and think that's the way to do it. And then they get disappointed that they try to do it and then it feels like it failed and it didn't go the way that they wanted it to go. Guess what, Crappie? Don't do that. Try something else. Give yourself a low-level exposure. Do it, master it, move on from there. Instead of, what's the highest thing that I can do? Oh my gosh, my anxiety is horrible. I can't avoid doing compulsions now because I'm so severe and I'm so amped up that I have to do it. All right? Give yourself the grace to be able to handle low-level things and build up from there. Build a great foundation, okay? That's where you want to go first. Build a really, really great foundation before you do other stuff. Matt says, I have relationship OCD and my wife and I get along really well. Awesome. Parent really well together. Great. And so forth. But every time I see her, I get a huge wave of anxiety and it makes me question my love. How do I combat this? Okay. Very simple, Matt. I'm going to have you try this. And you may not like this answer, Matt, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Matt, I don't know how to stop the wave of anxiety that happens right now. So what I want you to do, Matt, is to accept the fact that every time I see my wife, I'm going to have a wave of anxiety that comes over me and makes me question my love. And then after that, I'm going to go about my day and I'm going to do everything that I would normally do without having to go down the rabbit hole of where that wants to take me. I will just accept the fact that that is there, that happens, and then I'm going to move on from that. And I'm going to go ahead with my day and live the life that I want to live and not go down that rabbit hole that it wants me to go down. That's what I want you to do, Matt. Now, if you do that, I believe over time, Matt, you will see less and less of that wave of anxiety if you do that. Instead of wanting the wave of anxiety to stop right now, pay no attention to the fact that the wave of anxiety happens and teach yourself, oh, yeah, there's that wave of anxiety. Oh, yeah, that always happens. Oh, yeah, I can handle that. All right. And then you move on. And that's what I want you to do, Matt. That's what I want you to try. All right, Delius has a couple of things here. Delius, you get one question. Hi, Dr. McGrath. Hello, Delius. Do you have any advice for someone whose OCD is based in a sense of hyper-responsibility for one's behaviors, moral scrupulosity, and real event? This is based in a view, although flawed, that I have an obligation to the world to control what I can control, and behaviors seemingly fall under that umbrella. This is the root of my moral scrupulosity, the shame of neglect. OCD frequently twists a helpful concept and turns it into an exaggerated, anxiety-provoking idea. I guess another question would be how to install flexibility in your life, even when the emotional intensity associated with rigidity is so high. Thank you so much. All right. So let me go back up here a little bit and just kind of go to this idea. First of all, there's a word in there that I always pick on people about. that word is control, and the notion that we are in control of anything I want to challenge. I am not really in control of much of anything. I have some control over things, but to say that I have total control over anything would be foolish. I can say, I could tell you I have total control of sitting in this chair right now. But if suddenly I have a heart attack or a stroke, I'm probably going to fall out of the chair. Suddenly, I lost control of being in the chair and probably of my bowels and various other things too, because that seems to happen in those situations. So we don't want that, right? But I cannot tell you, Delius, that I have an absolute 100% control, even over sitting in this chair. Okay. So OCD tells you you should. You should have a 100% control over anything that goes on in your life, because you, Delius, are responsible for all that you do and the way that all people react to what you do as well too. Not only are you responsible for your behavior, you're responsible for the feelings of others. You're responsible if anybody feels bad, and you should feel bad if anybody else feels bad. And if you don't know that anybody feels bad, you should probably assume that everybody feels bad, because that's just the best way to live, is to assume that what you did is bad and wrong and that you weren't good enough. Now, I think all of you with OCD can kind of agree with that kind of a statement, that OCD has never been one to pat you on the back and say, oh, that one was pretty good. Hey, nice job. OCD's always been the one that stands behind, arms crossed, and goes, could have been better. Kind of failed that one. That one kind of sucked. Probably pissed everybody off there, and most likely are hated now by pretty much everybody. You better really do better next time, or else the world's probably gonna just social media the hell out of you and just say, Delius, what a jerk. Everybody stay away, because bad person, not very moral at all, and has done some things. The things, everyone. I mean, everyone knows the things, right? So he's done some things, and those things, whoo, holy moly, those things, my gosh. I mean, can you believe the things? Really? Can you just believe the things, everyone? And that's the kind of way that your brain's going to run to it. And a lot of that, again, comes under this idea, that belief that you have to be in control of things, right? Now, you put a caveat in there, that I have an obligation to the world to control what I can control, and behaviors seemingly fall under that umbrella, which I'm going to read into, I must control all of my behaviors at all time, right? Now, Delius, let's say that I'm driving, and I'm going to go back to having a heart attack or a stroke. I'm suddenly not in control of my behaviors because a part of my body has gone awire and I am no longer in control. And let's say that I'm driving while I have this heart attack or stroke. And in doing so, I ram my car into a school bus and I kill 4 children. How morally reprehensible am I, Delius? Because I was not in total control of my actions and my body at the time. How reprehensible of a person was I for that experience? Because you talk there about this notion that you can the things that you can control, you have to control. But I'm going to challenge you. What can you 100% ultimately be in total control of at all times? And there's the slope, right? There's where OCD goes, oh, crap. I got to find things that I can be in 100% control of. Oh, haven't found it yet. Punish myself, punish myself, punish myself. More punishment until I find the things that I can be in total 100% control of. Because if I can't be in 100% control of things, I'm going to beat the crap out of myself until I figure out a way to be in 100% control of things. Hopefully all of you listening are hearing this, and it doesn't just have to go to moral scrupulosity. You probably use a similar kind of thought process in whatever your type of OCD is. And it probably sounds very similar to what I've been describing here, I'm sure. Right. And I always love when people say, how did you know that? I'm like, well, you do this for 23 years and you kind of learn some patterns. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again in here. OCD is predictable. What have I done in 23 years? I've learned the pattern of OCD. I've learned how predictable OCD is. I know exactly where it's going to go. I know what it's going to do. I know what emotions it's going to turn on and off. I know how it's going to try to get you to focus on one twist of a word or turn of a phrase or something like that. I know how it's going to, forget the forest, even the trees, but it's going to focus on a needle. And as long as that needle in that forest is not the way that it's supposed to be on that pine tree, then the whole thing is shot and bad and awful and horrible and the worst case scenario. And it's your fault and you're responsible. And what a bad and awful, horrible person you are for even allowing it to be that way. And you should have known that the forest was going to be like that. You could have done something about that tree when it was planted to make sure that it was watered correctly so that it wouldn't have a brown needle. And why didn't you do it? And what an awful bad person you are. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Just curious, right? Anyone's brain kind of go down that road whatsoever? I bet it does. Please, everyone, please be careful with this notion that you must be in control of things. Please recognize that OCD uses shame and guilt and disgust and anxiety and distress, all as ways to pull on you, to show you that you are not worthy. You are not good enough. You will never be good enough for OCD. You will never meet its demands. You will never cross its finish line. You will never jump its hurdles. You will never set a world or Olympic record. All you will do for OCD is feed it with compulsions and feel like a failure. That is what will happen. Right? Going back above, you have choices. Do you accept the fact that that's what's going to happen and how your brain's going to react and move on? Or every time this happens, do you act with shock and awe and surprise that, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened again. Oh, wow, I had no idea. I must figure it out. I must go down this rabbit hole once again to try to figure it out, because obviously I haven't figured it out yet. What if it is unfigure-outable? And yes, I have trademarked that word. But what if it is unfigure-outable? What if there is just no answer? What if OCD is that much of a jerk that it's playing you? Oh no, keep trying. No, try again. Oh, keep going. Go again. Yeah. Oh no, one more time. Yeah. Oh, so close. Oh, so close. Oh, so close. Oh, you almost got it. No. Try again. Ooh, that was almost there. Oh, one more time. How many of you are on your 938,473rd? One more time. Anyone? Anyone? I bet a few of you are. It's not about one more time. It's not about being in control. It's about having OCD and falling for its tricks every single time it throws something at you. If OCD says you're responsible for all the events in the world, all the behaviors in the world, your behavior, others' behaviors, whatever it might be, it's going to pick on something that in you is going to, pull on a string or a cord, and it'd be like, oh, wait a minute, boy, OCD threw 73 things at me, none of them stuck, but that 74th, ooh, man, that one. That one digs a little bit. Yeah. Wow. You know what? Boy, finally, OCD, you found something. You're right. I, I really, I really am responsible for this thing. Wow. Good job, OCD. I mean, boy, I don't know how you figured this one out, but boy, I've been living my life in such a way that I haven't been in control of this so much. And it's by the skin of my teeth and luck that I've barely gotten through life, I think. But now that you've shown me the light, OCD, and thank you, Almighty OCD, for doing such a thing. Now that you have shown me the light, boy, I now know what I must do. I must make this thing perfect. I must do everything that you demand of me. And my hope is after about 74 more years of dealing with you, you'll finally say to me, OCD, good job. That would be great. That's all I'm going to ask for you, OCD. And at least in the next 74 years, at one time, just once, OCD, you will say to me, good job. But it won't, because OCD is like Lucy holding the football for Charlie Brown. And never once did Lucy keep the football down when Charlie Brown charged to kick the football. And in interviews with Charles Schultz, happy birthday, by the way, this year, you've been 100. In every interview with Charles Schultz, he said, not only did Charlie Brown never kick the football, it doesn't matter how many comic strips I write, Charlie Brown will never kick the football in the future either. It will never happen. You want a great example of what OCD is? It's Lucy holding the football for Charlie Brown. He's never going to kick it, and you're never going to satisfy it. So, if we can get Charlie Brown to stop charging the football and we can get you to stop trying to satisfy OCD, all gets better and hopefully things go well, right? So, I'm really hoping that this is making sense to people. I'm really hoping that this is kind of getting through, right? Because boy, do we try to make OCD like us and happy with us, right? But that is a path untravelable. It ain't gonna happen. Okay. It just isn't going to happen. All right. Beth likes my Charlie Brown. Thank you, Beth. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the Charles of Browniness. Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest. Great line. Christina says, good evening, Dr. McGrath. Are there any movies based on overcoming OCD or just documentaries? Just curious. Overcoming OCD. I mean, there's some about having OCD. But, you know, there are more documentaries like Chris Tronson and his wife, his wife. Boy, if Chris watches this, he's going to laugh at that one. Sorry, Chris. Chris Tronson and his mother did a great documentary. Ethan Smith was on there as well, too, I believe. Liz McInvale's been interviewed in these areas, and they all kind of talk about, you know, going from the depths of OCD to OCD advocacy and OCD therapy, that some of them have become therapists and everything too. So amazing stuff. And I think that those would be great to check out. But you might want to look at the International OCD Foundation. They may have a list of movies that are like that. So we'll check it out. Okay. Chris says, hey, Dr. McGrath, what if the past real event was something I definitely did? Let's say it was morally reprehensible. How can I move on with my life and be happy? I ruminate a lot and get stuck. My therapist tells me I compulsively ruminate in guilt and self-punishment as a way to never allow myself to move forward my life and be happy. I think we answered this one, Chris, in the past, so I don't want to go too in-depth in it because I don't want it to be reassurancy. But if it wasn't you, I will still give a bit of an answer here. So, for all of you who may have this kind of experience, how much punishment do you deserve? I mean, that's the question, right? Isn't that what it really comes down to? How much punishment do you actually deserve? So, Chris, how many years should you be punished before we can say, okay, we will now move on from that? Have you yet achieved the number of years that you deserve punishment, or are you still in those numbers of years? And I ask this, not that I believe you should be punished. So I want everyone to be clear on that. I do not believe that Chris should be punished for something like this. But his OCD sure does. And if Chris is going to fully grab onto the OCD by the horns and be like, you know what, OCD, you are right. I did something morally reprehensible. How can I move on with my life now that I've done something of that nature, right? Chris watched The Shawshank Redemption. Great movie. Red, played by Morgan Freeman, one of the greatest roles ever in movie history, murdered someone when he was 19 years old. Went to jail for it. Was eventually, in his probably late 50s, early 60s, let out of jail. Chris, was that enough time to be in jail? Should he have spent some more time in there for having done something reprehensible? Or was that good enough? I don't know. Are we ever allowed to accept that maybe we're a different person now than we were back in the day that we did something? And look upon that as, okay, I did that. I'm not proud of that. It's time to move on from that, because that's not me anymore. Right? Now, I get that our society is kind of on a kick right now of kind of digging around and trying to find things in people's lives. Let's say, oh, look what you did when you were 2. How dare you have done that when you were, yes, forget that you weren't even cognitively enough aware of what you were doing, but you shouldn't have done it. What a horrible, awful person. Right? I'm going to go back to my earlier answer, Chris, for you too. Can you accept and can you move on? When you're ready for that, Chris, and yeah, I would work on that with a therapist. I think that you'll find that those the OCD might scream in the back at you, it can stay in the back and it doesn't have to be in the forefront of everything of your life. And that would be my hope for you, that you get there. Little reminder to everyone, tonight's webinar brought to you by NoCD. NoCD, a downloadable app you can get through Google Play or iOS. Please check us out. It is a free download. You can also go to nocd.com and you can get a therapist. That's right. We do teletherapy across the world. You can do it in the US. You can do it in Canada, you can do it in the United Kingdom, you can do it in Australia. So please check us out, reach out to our care team. We'd be happy to give you a free 15-minute call to check out what's going on with you. We'll check your insurance as well too. We get more and more insurance coverage all the time here in the US, so that therapy might be totally covered. So check us out as a covered benefit. Over 120 million lives currently being covered by insurance with NoCD. So we're thrilled with that, and we're going to keep trying to get more and more all the time. We also treat hoarding. We treat BFRBs like trichotillomania or skin picking, and we treat tics. And if you're not quite ready for primetime therapy and have friends or family who want to know about OCD, we do NoCD 411 sessions too, where we'll fill them in a lot of information. Hope that was helpful. We want you there. We want to help you. Natasha says, hi there, greetings from Greece. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for your amazing videos. Well, thank you for being up at 3 in the morning, you friendly Greek person. I love Greece, by the way. I have some cousins who live in Mykonos, so one of my favorite places in the world to visit is Mykonos. It's just lovely, lovely over there. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see. Gel Pen said, just did some killer cardio, stretching. Good, nice, excellent. Let's see. DC says, why are all subtypes or themes of OCD treated the same? Because in the underlying it all, it's all OCD, right? Whichever way that it appears, it's all OCD. In fact, I use ERP for pretty much all anxiety disorders, right? For panic, I use a form of ERP called interoceptive exposure. For trauma, I use a form of ERP called prolonged exposure. For phobias, I use ERP as well. I expose people to things they're afraid of, like snakes and spiders and elevators and all those kinds of things too. So basically, a lot of this all occurs in a very similar part in the brain, not in a language part of the brain, but an emotional part of the brain. So a talk therapy would target a language part of the brain, but a behavioral therapy targets an emotional part of the brain. And that's why we do ERP. Let's see. Fiorella says, my boyfriend is a great person and gets frustrated easily with things. This has spiked my OCD. How can I do ERP around that? I would say potentially bring your boyfriend into a therapy session so that your boyfriend can learn about what's going on with you. Maybe your boyfriend's getting annoyed at some of the OCD things that are going on. And for people who don't understand OCD, that can be a very difficult thing for them to get. Like, why do you keep doing that? Stop that. And there's many, unfortunately, there's many people in the world who just think, if I tell you to stop it, that should be something that you'd be like, oh my gosh, oh, wait, stop it. I didn't even think of that. Holy mackerel, what do you know? All right, I've now stopped. Thank you. Oh, whew. I mean, imagine if that was my job, right? And in fact, if anybody wants to see an awesome, awesome skit, after you're done with webinar tonight, go on to YouTube and type in Bob Newhart, Newhart, Bob Newhart, Stop It, and watch Bob Newhart Stop It skit, where literally, as a therapist, someone comes into his office and talks about being afraid of stuff, and watch his responses to the fear. It's awesome. It's hysterical. And it, of course, does not work as a therapy. Okay. Naomi says, hi there. Hey, Existential OCD. What do you think is the best ERP for this? Was thinking of reading books about the universe and life, but concerned that can easily turn into a compulsion. So Naomi, one of the things that you can do is to make sure that it's not a compulsion is you can start on it. And after you get through a paragraph, flip a coin. If it's tails, keep reading. If it's heads, stop. And you just keep doing that. And that way you won't just be stuck reading and reading and reading, but you can do it every night then as kind of an exercise potentially, but you're going to let the fate of the coin flip kind of let you know when you're going to keep going and when you're going to stop. Let's see. Beth says, still stuck at home, afraid of pandemic. Anyone else afraid to go out, or is it just me since March of 2020? Well, Beth, there are still people who are afraid to go out, yes. But Beth, there are people out there in the world, and some are afraid of the pandemic who don't leave their home. Some are afraid of the pandemic who do, wear a mask all the time. Some are afraid of the pandemic and just live their life. Some have no fear of the pandemic and wear a mask because they think it's the socially appropriate thing to do. Some have no fear of the pandemic and don't wear a mask at all and think that it's dumb to do so. I mean, there's just numerous ways to be out there with this. But Beth, let me ask you this question. How much do you want to get outside? And what is your motivation to do so? And Beth, could getting outside be literally just opening the door, sticking your head out, and then closing the door tonight? And then tomorrow, opening the door, taking 1 foot outside, and then going back inside. And the next day, taking a full step outside, take a deep breath, go back inside. And every day, do 1 more step. And practice that until you are taking a walk around the block. And see how you feel. So that would be kind of the way that I would approach some ERP, Beth, but I encourage you to reach out to a therapist and let them kind of help and guide you through that, okay? Sunshine says, hi, Dr. M. Thanks for all your great advice and adding your humorous spin. Well, of course, you got to have some fun with this. Can false memory be in the instant moment? Sure, why not? How do you know if it's OCD? I struggle with that question the most. I'm going to bet if you're struggling with the question if it's OCD or not, it's probably OCD, because people without OCD don't struggle with things that happen in the moment and wonder if it's OCD. So therefore, I'm going to bet that it's OCD just based on that. I've never once heard someone without OCD going through life and something happening and going, wait a minute, could this be a sudden onset of OCD before I wonder if it's really true? No, it doesn't work that way. So Sunshine, that's why I'm going to believe that it's OCD. Nerva says, I have severe health anxiety, OCD lately, but I also going through health issues. How can I deal with this? I'm so hyper aware of my body and it makes me so scared every time I feel sensations. One of the things that I do, Nerva, in this is work with a therapist on interoceptive exposures. And I would clear those first with a doctor if you are having any health issues. But one of the things that interoceptive exposures do is they expose you to bodily sensations. And if you are kind of overly sensitive to bodily sensations and anything going on in your body, interoceptive exposures can help you learn how to deal with those, so that you learn that, wow, I can actually make sensations happen in my body. And look, when I make them happen, nothing bad happens to me. So it probably means that if I can make them happen and nothing bad happens, if they generally happen, nothing bad will really happen either. So I would first work with somebody on this notion of interoceptive exposure. There's also a really nice book called An End to Panic, which has a list of all of those in it as well too. And I think that that you'll find that to be very helpful. Sleepy says, is the purpose of ERP essentially to get us to feel the feeling we're trying to avoid by overthinking within our brain, if that makes sense? Well, you do want to feel the feeling, Sleepy. That is for sure, right? And sometimes we try to avoid feeling the feelings by maybe getting very cognitive and overthinking things, or distracting ourselves, or doing something like that, because we believe that we can't handle the feeling's too much. What I want you to do, Sleepy, is I want you to truly feel the feeling. I want you to feel all the feels, as difficult as the feels might be. I want you to feel the feelings, and I want you to learn that you can handle having feelings. You don't need to run away from feelings. You don't need to avoid feelings. You can handle feelings. Okay? I hope that's helpful. Delta says, hey, Dr. McGrath, what are some good strategies to help with OCD during menstruation? Well, Delta, one of the first things to recognize, and thanks for bringing this up, is that absolutely, during the menstrual cycle, you can see OCD getting worse. And it is not uncommon. Now, the OCD can have a hormonal component to it. It doesn't always have a hormonal component. And not everyone who has a menstrual cycle is going to talk about, OCD getting worse during it. But for some people, it does. Now, a few things that I've seen people do, right? I'm not promoting any of these. I'm just telling you a few things that I've seen people do. One is some people have gone to their OBGYN and talked about birth control, because it helps to regulate the hormones throughout the month and keep the cycle kind of on a more even keel than it does naturally, as it goes up and down over the course of the 28 days. So that might be something, Delta, to check out. Maybe that would be helpful a little bit as well. I would also make sure that you get thoroughly assessed to see if there's any kind of other hormonal concerns or issues around there. And again, an OBGYN is going to be the person to kind of check that out. If you're working with a therapist, I think that you want to prepare for the fact that it seems to get worse at some points in the cycle. So that at certain weeks, you're going to be working on certain kind of ERPs. And at other weeks, you might be doing different kinds of ERPs or approaching it slightly different. I've done this with women who have had this type of issue, where they've talked about during this week in my cycle, it's really, really difficult. So we have a special set of ERP exercises that we add in that week that we don't necessarily have to do some of the other weeks, because the other weeks when the cycle and the hormones aren't as high, it's not really bothering them so much. So I think that when you're working with a therapist, you really kind of figure some of that out. You'll be able to kind of adjust according to that. Let's see. Florence asks, why do so many OCDers have the same compulsion? Well, if they share a subtype, they're going to have similar compulsions. But remember, most compulsions are going to be to do a couple of things. To avoid, to seek reassurance, or to distract is what you're going to kind of have happen. Or to get immediate gratification or neutralization of an intrusive thought, image, or urge, right? And so if they share anything in common, it's the immediacy of the experience when you do a compulsion, in order to try to get relief from whatever discomfort you have while you're experiencing an intrusive thought or image or urge. Rose says, I keep on ruminating whether I sexually molested my 3-year-old neighbor daughter a month ago or not. If I did molest her, wouldn't I know? Why do I keep doubting it, although I have no desire to do so? Sounds like a pedophilic OCD kind of experience to me, where there's doubt and doubt and doubt, no matter what. And of course, Ro, there's no one who's going to be able to convince you 100% that you did not do something like this, which of course is what your OCD is going to demand, that you find a way to figure out 100% guarantee that I did not do this. And it becomes very disappointing over time when I say to people, well, there isn't 100% guarantee that I can tell you that you didn't do it. I wasn't there. I didn't witness anything, so I can't tell you that you did not do something like that. And then a lot of people say to me, well, I can't live in a world where I don't have 100% guarantee that I didn't do something. And I say, but all of us live in a world where we can't have 100% guarantee that we didn't do something. I have no guarantee that I won't go and in the middle of this webinar, ready, everyone? Here it comes. You all who've watched this enough know I have no guarantee that at some point in time I won't go and grab a liquor bottle from my house, put a rag in it, light it on fire, throw it as a Molotov cocktail at my neighbor Dave's house across the street. Then I'll go in the middle of the street, take a poop in a bag, light it on fire, and put it in front of my neighbor Josh's house or ring the doorbell. He'll come out, see a bag on fire, stomp on it because he'll think there's a fire, but then he'll have poopy fire on him, and I'll laugh at him. And then I'll shoot 3 geese that are flying over my house. It is big geese season up here in Wisconsin right now. So I'll shoot a bunch of geese that are flying over my house, and then I'll come back here and I'll do this webinar and continue. Maybe I've done it before. What if I did? How would I know? And I could go knock on my neighbor Dave's house and say, did I ever burn your house down with a Molotov cocktail? And you might say, no, Patrick, you never did that. But maybe I'll think to myself, well, he's just being nice to me. Why is he just being nice? He's really lying. I mean, maybe I actually did it, right? Is there a way when I have OCD that I can get 100% guarantee that I did not do something that my OCD is what ifing? I don't think so. And so you know what? I'm not going to even try because it's a waste of time. So what am I going to have to do? I have to live with doubt. I have to live with uncertainty. But I don't want to live with this doubt. I don't want to live with this uncertainty. And OCD knows that. And that's why OCD picked this thing to have doubt and uncertainty about, because it knows that, this is the one that I can hold over their head for the rest of their life and get them to do compulsions because, compulsions. What a lovely, lovely, wonderful thing. They feel so great and awesome. And they're my favorite food. And, you know, my life is OCD. I'll tell you, I sit in your brain, just kind of sit with my feet up, my arms behind my head, and I just kind of chillax and lay down. And all I do is, try to pay attention to when your guard's down, and when it is, I throw a gotcha at you. And then once I get the gotcha out, then I just kind of sit back again and watch you do all these compulsions. And compulsions is, it's kind of like those old Egyptian or Roman things. You got the emperor laying down, and there's someone feeding grapes to him. It's like, and every grape is another compulsion you do. It's like, oh man, so delicious, so wonderful, more compulsions please. And then when you stop doing compulsions, I'll be satiated for a little bit of time. I'll feel nice, my belly feels nice and warm, full with all those compulsions. But I have a really, 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 really high metabolism, so then those compulsions start to get digested. It's like, oh, I'm hungry again, so throw another gotcha at you. And then that other gotcha gets out there, and you go and run and do more compulsions, and I get some more grapes. It's like, oh yeah, feels so good and wonderful. I love these grapes, man. These compulsion grapes are the tastiest grapes in the entire world. Yeah, and I don't know why OCD sounds like that, but it does for some reason. I don't know. And if that's what you're going to do, right? Well, you're just feeding OCD the whole time, because OCD could be in there as just kind of someone who's just hijacked your house, and you could be like, all right, I get that you live in the basement, but I'm just going to lock the door and pay no attention to you anymore. And you know what? Fine, you live in the basement, you can have it. I'm going to make my life upstairs here, and I'm going to pay no attention to the crap that you try to launch at me once in a while. Right? You're just going to move on and not be so concerned about you, because you don't have my best interest at heart whatsoever. So, let's see. Nervous says, also because of health anxiety, it seems like every time I hear about a new health issue, it becomes an obsession. But there is no way to escape that. Everyone has health stuff going on. What can I do? Well, kind of again, recognize that you will accept the fact that, yes, there might be something with health going on with you. And that's where you're going to work toward in therapy with someone. And the other piece is to purposely be exposed to all sorts of health stuff till you get to the point where it's just like, oh my gosh, there's tons of health things out there, right? If there's one thing that I can guarantee, you're going to have a health thing happen at some point in time in your life. Now, that pisses off your OCD. But Nerva, none of us get out alive, right? As far as we know, none of us have made it out alive. So you are going to have some kind of health thing that happens to you. It is going to occur. It may be slow and painful. It may be quick and painless. It may be somewhere in the middle. I have no idea, right? But here's what I believe. You're going to figure out a way to handle it. You have two choices right now, Nerva. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Do you choose to live next to your tombstone wondering when you're going to be 6 feet under it for the rest of your life? Or do you choose to live your life in the way that you want to live it, partying like a rock star, having a great time, showing up on the day of your death, maybe with a martini in one hand and a boa around your neck saying, damn, that was a good time. And then gradually lay yourself down in that, under that tombstone and go, okay, here we go. And on to the next journey, whatever that might be, right? Right now, Nerva, you're sitting next to your tombstone wondering when you're going to be 6 feet under it. You're living the life of worry and wonder instead of living life. So you could go out and live life. And yes, one day something might screw it all up, right? It could happen. Does that, though, mean that we shouldn't live life? Right? Is that what that means? Many of you know my wife died of cancer a few months ago. Nerva, I'm going to ask you this question. Should I have not married her? I mean, she had cancer. We were married for a year and then she got sick. And then 6 years later, she died. And it was a horrible, terrible, awful, painful, just nasty 6 years. Now, Nerva, if I adopted your OCD philosophy, and I'm not saying your philosophy, I'm saying your OCD's philosophy, I would never have gotten together with her because I would have thought, now, wait a minute, you have no guarantee that this girl isn't going to die on you. You have no guarantee that she doesn't have cancer. You have no guarantee that even after you get married, which she seems healthy now, but what if in a year from now, it just hits the fan, right? So according to your OCD, Nerva, I should have never married her. She should have stayed single and just suffered alone and died that way. Because then at least I wouldn't have had to go through 6 years of caretaking. Or every day we take chances. Every step we take, we could break an ankle. Every stair we step up or down, we could fall down. Every car we ride in could be the last car we ever ride in. Every time we walk outside, could get hit by lightning. The fact that as many of us are alive is probably more shocking and surprising than the fact that we're all going to die. I mean, if you think about all the ways that things could potentially go wrong, and yet we're still here. We're not going to be here forever, but we're defying the odds so far. So, you know what? Even if my brain is telling me all these things, do I have to listen to it and believe it to be true? Or can I say, F you, brain, I'm going out and I'm living my life. And I'm going to do what I want to do and not what you tell me to do. Because you kind of suck. And you're really, raining on the parade. You're the turd in the punch bowl. And this ain't no fun. So it's time to go on and live the life that I want to live and not the life that OCD wants me to live. And that's, Nerva, where I will challenge you, is to give that a try and see how that goes. Riley says, I have checking OCD and my checks never feel good enough, nor will they, right? Because, Riley, the more we check, the less confident we feel. We've got enough research on that now to know that the more you check, the less confidence you have in your checking. And you say your checks never feel good enough or finished or complete. They never will. I redo them and then redo them and repeat. How do you suggest breaking the cycle, bouncing back when a mistake happens? So, Riley, again, you're never going to be able to check enough to satisfy OCD because OCD is unsatisfiable. You cannot do something enough to make OCD say, oh, yeah, that was awesome. Great. It doesn't work that way, right? OCD is unsatisfiable. Please recognize that. You can't check enough. All right? I can't stress that enough. You cannot check enough. Not one person ever has. Not one person I've met in 23 years of treating OCD has said, you know, my OCD said to me today, nice job, you checked enough. Never happened. Not going to happen. Stop looking for it to happen, Riley. It's not going to happen. 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 It doesn't exist. It's not the way that it works. Riley, accept the doubt and the uncertainty and move on. And yes, your OCD will scream at you. But just because it does doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's true. And doesn't mean at all that you have to believe in it. Marvelous Mike says, I've been diagnosed with OCD and have grappled with it for many years. Lately, I've been having the thought urge to poke my own eyes out. Please help. I've never felt like this before. So intrusive thought, around harm, which can happen, and we can be afraid of harming ourselves, and we can be afraid of harming other people. This would be one of those experiences, Mike. Now, Mike, people who have this sometimes decide, I'm going to do some testing, right? And then they want to kind of, how close can I get to doing it without actually doing it? And inevitably in doing that, they do it. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I did it. And what does that mean? So Mike, I really want you to work with a therapist who can help you with this, because I don't want you to get to the point of testing this out and actually doing some damage to yourself, because it's not that you're going to want to, but when people go down the road of testing these things, more often than not, I've seen them accidentally do something that's harmful to themselves. And I don't want you to do that. So Mike, get in touch with someone who can help you with this and work through this with you. You can do ERP for this, Mike. It is helpful. But I don't want you getting to the point that you are just so afraid of this that you're going to test it more and more to see if it'll actually happen, that you actually cause a scratch or something like that on your cornea. Okay. Nico says, developed tinnitus or tinnitus. Me too. Had it for 25 years. It sucks. Could this be OCD hyper-awareness focusing on the general white noise that everyone has, or is it Lexapro? And that I think it actually is Lexapro 7 weeks, and it started 3 days ago. Don't know. I mean, if Lexapro has tinnitus as a side effect, it could be that, right? It is a possibility. From what I've read in all of the antihistamines that I took back when I was a kid, tinnitus is a side effect of a lot of those, which explains to me a lot of the tinnitus. The 30 Rush concerts I went to might play a role in that as well too. Who knows? But I'm assuming a lot of the meds that I took as a kid probably have led to the tinnitus. I know that it sucks right now, Andrew, the tinnitus, because it's really, really, really annoying. I've had it for 25 years. It's really loud right now because I'm talking about it, but in about 3 or 4 minutes, it's going to fade in the background. And though I'm always hearing it, I'm not going to be hearing it. You can get to that point, Andrew, with tinnitus, just like you can get to that point with intrusive thoughts and images and urges that we all feel with obsessive compulsive disorder as well, too. So I would check with your doctor to talk to them about this if this is a side effect that you're actually experiencing. Okay. All right, let's see what we got. Can I experience very bad anxiety being around people at a store? Aside from all my OCD, just being around people give me bad anxiety. Yeah, I mean, there can be agoraphobia kinds of issues, or there can be social anxiety where you might feel some of that as well too. So absolutely. Mm-hmm. Is having nightmares and worry from a scary movie a form of OCD? Not necessarily, but OCD could pick on some themes from scary movies and say, oh, what if you were to do this? I mean, what a bad, awful person you would be if you were to do this. That would be horrible. So don't underestimate the power of OCD to grab onto something like that if it wants to. Suki says, I had so many hugs with my daughters today when OCD was saying, don't hug the girls. But I showered after I came home. Is that bad? Well, do it without showering next time, work up to that. I think that would be awesome, but good job on doing it. At least you're moving forward. So I think that's great. Beth Carducci with the best reply tonight. I am hilarious. Thank you, Beth. You are awesome as well too. Good to have you. Good to have you here. Nushin says, my therapist says that ERP for blasphemous thoughts and things, people days that they get contaminated with blasphemy is just don't avoid or redo things. Is that all for such a debilitating OCD? So Nushin, one of the things that I do with people who have experienced blasphemous thoughts is I want them to kind of just maybe make a loop tape of the blasphemous thoughts, and I want them to listen to it over and over again. I don't need to create new blasphemous thoughts. I'm just going to take the ones that have already popped into your head, and I'm just going to get you to the point of hearing them so many times that you find them boring and stupid, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, this is just OCD gobbledygook and garbage, and I don't need to pay any attention to it whatsoever. That's the route that I would like you to go to, right? The moment I tell you don't think a blasphemous thought is the moment that our friend, the pink elephant, comes out. Yes, that's right, everybody. There it is. We haven't seen him for a while. Hello, pink elephant. Good to see you again. It's been a while. Yes, I hope you're well. Okay. Trying not to think of a pink elephant is going to make you think of one, and trying not to think of blasphemous thought is going to make you think of one. So it's not about trying not to think of a blasphemous thought. It's not about trying to make a blasphemous thought go away. It's about learning that just because it's there doesn't actually mean anything. And this is where OCD crosses in with religion, because religion will say, these thoughts are bad. Thou shalt not experience them. If thou shalt experience them, thou shalt go to hell or burn or awful, horrible things. And OCD is like, ooh, wait a minute. Bad, awful, horrible things? Ooh, love bad, awful, horrible things. Those are my favorite things in the world, bad, awful, horrible things. Tell me more about this blasphemous thought thing that can lead me to go to hell. Well, if thou thinkst one or has the notion of one, thou shalt burn forever. Ooh, that would suck. Let's make sure we don't do that. Hey, you, yeah, don't think this. Oh, crap. I was just told not to think. Now I've got to think of it. Okay. All right. So now I'm thinking of it. Now I told you not to think it, but you told me not to think it. That's what made me think it. Don't yell back at me like that. That's not the way that this works. I told you not to think it, but you told me not to think it. That's why I think it. Shut up. Now you must do this compulsion, because if you don't, you will burn in hell forever. And that's just the way that it is going to be. You stupid ninny noonie nanu. And well, but I don't want to be a stupid ninny. I don't want to burn it out. So I guess I'll do your compulsion. Yes, thank you. Feed me grapes. I love grapes. I love compulsion grapes. They're delicious, by the way. I'm in need of grapes. I'm very hungry right now. Could you give me some more grapes, please? Compulsion. Oh, thank you. Yes, more grapes. More. Not quite. Oh, still gonna burn it out. No. Oh, okay. All right. That's good. Thank you. Momentarily satisfied. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. Well, am I not going to hell anymore? For the moment, we're okay. Okay, great. Okay. But remember to not go to hell. Don't think this thought. Now I'm thinking it again because you told me not to think of it. How dare you think of it? I told you not to think of it. And we go over and over and over and over and over. Sound like anybody? Sound familiar to anybody? Is that the way it works for everybody? It's exhausting, isn't it, everyone? I mean, really, come on. It's totally exhausting, right? It's rough. All of you, you know what? You're warriors out there fighting this stuff, because this thing is relentless. Okay? Keep up the good fight, and recognize that fighting OCD doesn't necessarily mean fighting OCD. Sometimes the best fight in OCD is to go, okay, OCD, yeah, whatever you say. Thanks. Yeah, okay, yeah, great. Hey, no, I'm going to go over here now. No, oh, really? Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. And you move on. And that's what you want to do. Everyone, check us out at nocd.com or download that NoCD app if you're looking for teletherapy. We'd love to help you. If you like the kind of stuff you're hearing here tonight, it's how we train a therapist. It's the kind of stuff that we do with them. Okay, so check us out at nocd.com, or again, download that app for free on Google Play or iOS. It's been great to be with you tonight, everyone. We will see you again soon. Next week, we're going to have Tracy and Josh here, and the week after that, I'll be back. All right, talk to you all soon. Tonight,